What were the consequences of the Encomienda system in Spanish colonies? If you're curious about the impact of the Encomienda system in Spanish colonies, you're about to uncover some significant and far-reaching consequences that shaped the lives of indigenous people and the colonial landscape. The Encomienda system was essentially a labor system where Spanish colonizers, known as encomenderos, were granted the right to use the labor of indigenous people. In return, these colonizers were supposed to provide protection and convert the natives to Christianity. However, this system quickly turned into a form of communal slavery. One of the most devastating consequences was the extreme mistreatment of indigenous people. They were forced into hard labor, subjected to torture, and often faced death if they resisted. This led to a significant reduction in the native population due to overwork, disease, and violence. The Encomienda system also disrupted the social and family structures of indigenous communities. Natives were often forced to leave their homes and work in distant locations, breaking up family units and community hierarchies. This geographical displacement further weakened the indigenous populations. Another critical consequence was the rise of the mestizaje caste system. As indigenous people intermarried with non-indigenous spouses, such as Spaniards or Creoles, their mixed-blood offspring were no longer considered native, and thus could not be subject to the Encomienda system. This led to the emergence of a Mestizo identity and population, which eventually replaced many indigenous identities. The system was also marked by corruption and abuse. Encomenderos frequently ignored their responsibilities to protect and educate the natives, instead exploiting them for labor and resources. This led to numerous rebellions and resistance movements by indigenous leaders against the Spanish colonizers. Efforts to reform the Encomienda system were met with resistance from colonists who benefited from it. The new laws of the Indies in 1542, which aimed to reduce the exploitation, were often ignored or postponed. It wasn't until the 18th century that the Encomienda system was gradually phased out, although it continued in some areas until the 1780s. The economic impact was also significant. The Encomienda system hindered the development of a sustainable agricultural economy because it relied on forced labor, which was inefficient and led to a decline in productivity. As diseases reduced the labor force, the system became less viable, prompting the Spanish to seek alternative labor arrangements. In summary, the Encomienda system had far-reaching and devastating consequences for indigenous populations, leading to significant population decline, social disruption, and economic inefficiencies. It also paved the way for the rise of a new Mestizo identity and eventually led to its own downfall due to its inherent flaws and abuses.